Hey everybody, I'm Jennifer. It's nice to meet you. I have met some of you already, and today we're going to be talking about understanding the basics of payments. And I've made this a very simple version, and we can kind of go more in depth one-on-one if you'd like. Happy to do that, but just wanted to give you a brief overview of exactly what it is that we're doing and what we're offering to your clients. So I think we want to try and hold all of the Q&A to the end. So make sure you write down your questions or throw them in the chat, and we'll definitely be able to answer those. Cool? All right, cool. So what is merchant services? Merchant services is basically the way that people get paid electronically. So think of any time you use your credit card, be it in person at Starbucks or if you're using it online at Amazon, whatever it is that you do, that's merchant services. So any kind of electronics payments. Mostly it's with credit card, and the first thing that comes to most people's mind is using a point of sale, right? Whenever you go and you buy something at the grocery store. But there's so many different layers, and we're going to dig into that today. And I know some of you have some experience with payments already, so that's great. This is just going to be a little refresher. I want to talk about what's going to be a good candidate for a referral. And so that's why I kind of prefaced it a minute ago of most people think of a point of sale, right? So a point of sale is going to be the machine that you swipe your card on physically, and that's great for a retail store or a restaurant. But then think about service providers. Think about a contractor that's coming out to fix your roof, or the HVAC guy that's going to come and repair something. Could even be equipment rental, like those giant excavators, right? Those rentals, those have to get paid for somehow, right? So all of those different kinds of businesses need to take payments, and they need to take credit cards. Kind of got a few more here, so you guys can kind of think about who you have in your portfolio. You've got healthcare providers, you've got lawyers, consultants, all sorts of different things. B2B is a big one, you guys. It's really where we make a lot of bread and butter, because everybody's trying to get those rewards points. So those B2B with those larger transactions, those are some really good ones to think about as well. And then of course, mobile businesses. In my brain, I immediately go to a food truck, but it could be like a mobile dog grooming or something like that. So I challenge you all to try and think of a couple of businesses in your portfolio that you think would be a good fit. Kind of maybe make a list, and we can go through them together, because one of the cool things about Propelr is that we're here to really work with you to try to optimize as many opportunities as possible. So if you think, hey Jennifer, I've got this customer and I'm not sure if they would be a good fit, just let us know, and we'll be able to really dig into it and see how we can make them to be a good fit with us. Okay, I'm gonna just keep going along, guys. Types of payments, right? So then this is where we're going to dig into the different kinds of payments. The most common that you guys are probably thinking of is a payment terminal or a point of sale terminal, right? So it's like a specific machine that tracks inventory and payroll, maybe all of these different things that are built into that device. That's cool, and we can work with a lot of those. The other one might be your basic payment terminal. Think of like when you go to a gas station and you're in the convenience store, and there is a little machine where the guy behind the counter types in your dollar amount and then turns it around. That's going to be a payment terminal. Those are great too for those smaller opportunities that really don't need something super robust. We got mobile payments, and you see that most often at like little trade shows or farmers markets, right, where they have the little booths up and people pull their square out. We got that too. And then your virtual terminal. This one's going to be really common with that B2B or that contractor space, where they're either going to want to send an invoice for services rendered, or you're going to call and pay your bill, and you're going to read somebody your card number. That's where this virtual terminal is going to come into play. The last main one that we do is e-commerce. So this is my kryptonite, because I live on Amazon basically, and constantly I'm ordering online, because that's kind of the world that we live in a post-COVID world. And that is one thing that we can offer as well, right? So if anybody has a website, they're just getting started and they don't want to have a brick and mortar yet, but they've got a website, or they maybe want to take payments on their website for the services. Think about like a auto body shop, one of those kind of things where they're like, oh yeah, you can pay your bill online. This is where that would fit in. So lots and lots of opportunities, and I'm hoping that y'all's brains are spinning right now, trying to like come up with some good opportunities for us, because I think that y'all's book of business will definitely be a good fit here. Cool. Keep going. I created, and you guys will get a copy of this deck after the meeting, but I created this talk track, and this is just an example of kind of what my team does as they are talking to new customers and prospects, right? So it's not anything that you guys don't already know, but these are just some good questions that kind of initiate a conversation without sounding too salesy, because unfortunately, as you guys probably have encountered in our industry, it does have a little bit of a used car salesman kind of vibe, unfortunately, and we want to stray away from that. So these are some things that kind of sound a little bit better for my team anyway, and I thought they might be good suggestions for y'all. So, tell me about your business. You guys probably already know about their business, so you probably skip that and a couple of these other ones, but who are you using right now for merchant services? This is really good because this tells us their answer, right? If they say, oh, I don't actually know, then that's great, honestly, because if they don't actually know, then they're not super invested in that provider. Y'all already know how that works, right? But if they say, oh, I use the bank, I use my bank because I love my bank. Okay, that's going to be a little bit of a harder sell because we know that they love their bank. Not saying we can't win it, but at least we know there's a little bit of relationship there. How's it going with them? What are your pain points? Any of those kind of things. Those are obviously main questions. And, how are your customers paying you right now? And that goes into the slide we just looked at, which is how are you taking payments? Do you like to take payments that way? Those kind of things. And my favorite question is, in a perfect world, what would payment acceptance from your customers look like? The reason I like to frame it that way is because sometimes people aren't taking payments the way that they would really like to. They're taking payments in a way that is sufficient, the way it's always been. I, in fact, just got off a call with another merchant who said, I said, well, why do you have 2 devices? And they said, well, that's the way it's always been. Okay, so would you rather just have one? I would love to just have one. Yeah, I don't need to have that, right? And so that's a really good question, because sometimes they're just doing it because someone told them that was the right way to do it, but they've thought about other ways for it to be efficient. And 9 times out of 10, guys, probably 10 out of 10, will be able to make that change for them and really make it a better experience. So leaning on a lot of things that isn't just about saving money. Of course, we're going to save them money. We have a meter beat guarantee, but trying to figure out other pain points so that way they start to love us even more. And then, of course, the final one here that I've got is, wouldn't it be great to save some money? Everybody wants to save money. Credit card processing is almost like a curse word, and most business owners, as you guys have probably talked about, I don't know anybody who's really significantly happy with their credit card processing whenever I talk to them. And so being able to save money on top of providing a better solution is honestly the cherry on top. When we talk about equipment, how is your hardware working for you? Do you like it? What's your point of sale? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why don't you like it? These kind of exploratory questions. I know I'm preaching to the choir. You guys already probably know all these questions, but I just wanted to make sure they were written out in case you have a brain fart, because that happens to me sometimes. Do you have a need for a mobile solution? We had somebody the other day who asked for text to pay. Oh, cool, we can do that. No problem at all. They're in the service industry, and they didn't want to send out mobile card readers to each of their techs because they were plumbers, right? They didn't want to send them out because they keep getting broken. Well, yeah, we do have text to pay. So the tech can text from the car to the person that's in the house, to the resident, and then they're able to pay their bill that way. So just different things like that. We have solutions that kind of fit everything. And the more questions you guys can get answered like this, the better opportunity we're going to have when we call them and talk to them with you about, like, hey, we already know all this stuff. We're in the know because we're besties with XYZ, whoever has sent the lead in. So these kind of things are incredibly helpful. And then to flow it into the close, the cool thing is you guys are going to send us a lead over, and we're going to do all of the back end work, and then either give you kind of what to say to the merchant, or we're going to take care of it for you, with you included, of course, right? So we always want to take a look at a statement. The reason why we want to look at a statement is because we can't tell them how much they're going to save unless we see that statement. And a lot of people are hesitant to do that. The reason why, I'm sure you guys probably see this in other industries as well, but the reason why is because they think that we're just going to drop it like 10 basis points, 0.10%, or like a penny here or there. And it's just going to be, we're barely going to save them any money. It's a common thing, unfortunately, in our industry, and it's something that we do get hit up with quite a bit. And so one way that we kind of go about that is we want to do a side-by-side comparison and show them all of the fees that are unnecessary. A lot of our competitors, unfortunately, are adding in all of these junk fees. We're able to get rid of those junk fees and really, without even touching their rates, we're able to lower their effective rate. And that's where it really comes into play. So you guys already have the trust with them. So getting that statement shouldn't be too difficult. As soon as we get that, we're able to provide an analysis that is going to show them, okay, here's where you're at now. And let me show you what parts you don't need to pay. And here's what it would be if you were with us. 9 times out of 10, it's a significant savings. Sometimes they're in a really great deal, and I tell them that. I'm like, hey, you know what? Y'all are in a great deal. I can shave off a little bit, but honestly, y'all are in a great deal. Because of the other pain points that we identified, we'd still be able to save you some headache. And that's where those questions we talked about earlier come into play. We do have a meter beat guarantee, guys. So what that means is we're not going to make them pay more to switch to us ever. So we're going to at least match the rates that they already have. But almost always, like I said, 9 times out of 10, we're able to save them money. So that's one thing, and people like a good rhyme. I don't know why, but meter beat guarantee has been successful in my entire career. And so we will always be able to do that. So, you know, it's a risk-free cost analysis. Sometimes we rephrase it that way of like, well, at least you'll know where you stand, right? At least you'll know if you're in a bad deal, and we'll be able to talk it through with them. Try to make it a little bit more educational instead of it being like a hard sell. Okay, I know I'm going over a lot, but I'm looking forward to the Q&A here. Okay, how to send a lead. This is the most important because I want you to be able to get them over to us, right? We have a lead form, and I've got a screenshot here of the actual lead form, but there's a link in here, and you'll fill out this link, and this goes straight into our CRM. So that way it goes to my whole team, right? So at Propelr, I run a team of inside sales professionals, and what they do is they call people all day, right? That's their whole job. And so while Michael Gabriel, who's on this call, if you want to say hey for a second, you can. Maybe not. Well, he's here with us, and we also have a team of experts as well that are here at your disposal. And what they're going to do is, as soon as this lead comes in, they're going to look at all of the things, right? So if you look at this, let's just kind of do a little bit of detail. So we got the business name, obviously, your owner's name and the owner's last name, first and last name, the basics, phone number, email address, current processor, right? We got that earlier in those questions. Website, if they have it. If they don't worry about it. The partner, that's you. So I want to know who sent this lead to me, right? So give us your name and your email address, please, because we want to make sure that you're included on all of our conversations. And then any notes you can provide. The more notes, the better. Like even if you tell us what they had for lunch yesterday, I'm down to know everything, guys, because every little bit helps. As soon as the lead comes in, we got a 2-hour SLA, okay? So whenever that lead comes in, we're going to reach out to you. If you have questions before you send this lead in, cool. Like I said earlier, if you think, oh, I don't know if this is going to be a good prospect, awesome. Send an email to this email address here. You can obviously send a direct email to Michael and myself, but I would love it if you could please just include this email address. The reason why is because some of y'all's emails has ended up in spam, and we want to make sure that nothing gets missed. So this ACS email address hits a lot of people, so you will definitely have eyes on it. So please, please, please remember to use that. There's also a section here that you can attach a statement. So if you got statement, brownie points to you, kudos. We're going to high five, and I'm going to do that statement analysis for you. So I want you to know what happens after you submit a lead, okay? Your lead will be assigned to a Propelr rep within 2 business hours. Once you guys fill out that form, we all get a notification, and someone's going to grab it. What they're going to do is they're going to reach out to you to make sure that they know exactly what the opportunity is. They want to know, like, are you also putting in another service there, right? So that way they can be knowledgeable. They're also going to see if you want to be included in the conversations. My answer is probably yes. You're always going to want to be included, but we're always going to ask, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to the prospect. We're going to craft the right solution based on what they've told us and what you've told us. And then slam dunk, we move on, right? We go ahead and get them boarded. Onboarding can take a few days. It really just depends on how responsive the merchant is. Kind of the process after we've sold them and they've signed all of the paperwork that needs to be signed is it has to go to an underwriting team because it is a financial service. We have to do an underwriting. And so sometimes it's really fast and great, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes they can't find enough information about the business and we've got to get some more documentation. Maybe we need a business license. Maybe we need bank statements because they're asking for a lot of volume. Maybe their industry is a little bit more risky. That's totally fine. Understand that those things happen. And as we're communicating to your customer about, hey, we need 3 months of bank statements, we're going to include you on that. So that way you can have a full picture of exactly what's going on every step of the way. We don't want you to be in the dark. And then depending on hardware requirements, the merchant can be as live as soon as a few days, right? So as soon as it's boarded, and we call it onboarded, if they don't need hardware in the store, like we don't need to switch out a terminal, perfect. They can go live that same day because they'll have access to log in and process a credit card manually. So it really depends on what they need, but that time frame can be just as quick as we want to get it, as responsive as the merchant is. So we're going to keep pushing. We're going to always try to get them without sounding like too much of a pest and bugging them all the time, but it can happen pretty quickly if they are responsive. Now the part that you guys probably all care about the most. Here are some examples of how you make money with it. It's such a weird space, and I'm sure you guys are all looking at this slide right now, so take a look at it and I'll explain it here in a sec. But it's such a weird space because it's all very dependent on what situation they're in now and what situation we're going to put them in. Obviously, we want to save them money or else nobody was really going to want to switch. Very rarely do people switch and pay more money. So I've put a couple of examples together. We've got 4 examples here, 2 on this slide and 2 on the next, and I'm going to walk through with you kind of what's going on, right? So this first example is an auto shop. They have just 1 location and they do $100,000 a month in credit card volume. Busy auto shop, right? Let's pretend it's like a transmission shop or something, high ticket. So right now I looked at their statements and the rates that we're able to change are at 0.80%. I'm going to save them 0.6, or I'm going to bring it down to 0.65%. And the profit margin there is going to be 325. So that's kind of our flow, guys. Where they're at now, what we're going to bring them to, and then what the savings or what the profit margin is. Same with number 2, $20,000 quick service restaurant. Think of a Subway, whatever. Right now they're at 0.5%. We're going to drop it down to 40, and then the profit margin there is 40. It varies depending on the kind of business that it is and the volume that they do. And really, the key thing is what they're at now, because someone could be in a really rockin' deal because their cousin set them up, and there's really not a lot that we can do there. So it varies, and I know that's a annoying answer, but it varies. Let's go down to this one here because this one's fun. So we have a doctor's office, guys, that has 20 locations. Okay, think it's like a med spa. Okay, and they do $50,000 a month in volume. Right now they're at 0.65%. We're going to bring them down to 50, so 0.5%, and that's 125. Doesn't sound too great, but when you look at all of the locations, think of those people that you know right now that have multiple locations. Then it's going to be at $2,500 for all the locations, right? And that's on a monthly basis. So all of those things are going to accrue. It's all a long game with merchant services. As I'm sure you guys are all aware, it's a residual game. So this is all going to build. It's not just a one-time thing. Last example I've got here is an equipment rental company. Think of those giant excavators that people rent out to come and put rocks in your backyard, whatever they do. So these folks are using an invoicing tool. They're at a really great rate, 0.20%. And then we're going to put them at 0.10%. So the profit margin there is 250. So that kind of goes to show you the differences. Like they're doing a ton of volume and that's great, but they were already in a really good deal. Now, this is the profit margin. You're going to want to talk to commissions at ACS to figure out what the split is for you individually. So I don't have that information, but y'all make sure you know who to reach out to for that. And that is the end, you guys. I'm going to go back to my other screen and see if there are any questions. Oh, wow, there are a lot. I love it. Okay, I'm going to scroll all the way back up, guys.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm here with you now, too. Good afternoon, everybody. I just got access to my mic. It's Michael Gabriel. I'm one of the leads on this partnership here, and I'm working hand in hand with Jennifer and here to help answer questions as well.
Awesome. Thank you for the help, Michael. There's a lot, so it sounds like we're about to be busy. It's a good thing I got a drink here. Okay. Okay. Please elaborate what companies you use for payment terminals, point of sale terminal. For example, Clover. Great question. So Clover is one of the most well-known in the industry, you guys. I'm sure you've seen it. It's a pretty little white one. We do offer that. We also have other solutions for full point of sale that can be on Verifone devices. There's one that we use a lot called Delta First, and it's like Clover, except for instead of white machines, they're black machines, and it's a little bit more cost effective. So when we are talking to our customers, we want to see what their pain points are. If they say, oh, I have this point of sale and it's so expensive, okay, green light. I know exactly what we need to do. What are you using it for? And if they say, oh, I'm using it for only for payments, I don't even do inventory tracking, cool, then I know what I need to do. Right, so we have a lot of optionality, Philip, about what kind of hardware we want to position and where. There's tons and tons of options. We've got endless options to do surcharging. We can do basic pricing. We can do a dual pricing. There's so many different things that we could do, and we craft based on each customer, right? Because if you try to position any customer with a cookie cutter solution, that's not them. That's what Square does. That's what Stripe does. That's what PayPal does. You guys have probably heard those names, and they're successful, but a lot of people leave them because they are put into a cookie cutter box, and that's just not what they need. They need something that is much, much more robust and specific for them, and that's where we come into play. It's a good question. All right, the next one says, what security measures are in place to protect payment data with both ACS and Propelr? Awesome question. So you might have heard as a pain point from a lot of people, PCI compliance. It is the biggest headache for most people, unfortunately, in the industry. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started in this industry, I was like, oh yeah, it's just a simple little questionnaire you have to fill out. It's no big deal. And then people would call me saying that they'd spent hours on it. And after doing a lot more research, we have fine-tuned it. I've got an expert on my team who does PCI compliance all day long, guys. All he's doing is walking people through to help them get compliant. Takes them 5 minutes. So that PCI compliance is the major security measure that we have in place, and that's across the industry. All of those things are super important. Another thing I want to point out in that is that we don't reprogram devices. So you might have been able to in the past, I know that I used to be able to reprogram existing payment devices that were out in the field. We can't do that anymore because essentially you're hacking into that device, and that's where payment, like customers' cardholder data lives. It's not very secure. So we take everything very seriously. Michael, feel free to interrupt me at any point, but I'm just going to keep running down this list.
Yeah, Jennifer, let me just add a,
Sure.
point-to-point encryption is a very secure way that that transactions are processed from terminal to processor, and it cuts down working over the networks of the company that's processing the transaction. It cuts down the exposure. So that's what a lot of our solutions have the ability to provide.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. Either point-to-point encryption or end-to-end encryption. Depends on if we're having an integration or not. So that's a really good call out, Michael.
Yep.
Perfect. What are the reporting and analytic capabilities offered by Propelr for transactions? Awesome question. We have incredibly robust reporting from your individual merchants being able to see their live transactions. They can see their batches, their funding. They can see everything, and they can actually customize how frequently they want to see it, right? They can say, you know what, I want to get an email every single night of the batch from the day before, and they can get as granular as, I want to see, how many transactions did Sally do versus how many did Joe do, right? If we've got multiple users, we can really make that super granular to be customized to whatever they want to see. Again, it goes back to that cookie cutter mentality. We don't do that, right? We want it to be what they want. And so if they were like, oh, Jennifer, I used to get bombarded with 10 emails a night from our payments provider. Okay, we don't want that. No worries. You have access to it all here, but what was most important that you received? And we'll help them customize that offering so that way it's exactly what they need. Dun, dun, dun. How does Propelr handle chargebacks? Great question. Well, honestly, we hope to never have to, but of course it happens. And when we do, we have an entire team devoted to it. So it's very similar to a lot of our other competitors, to be honest. But the way that we do it is that if there is a chargeback that happens, we'll send a notification in 3 different ways. So they'll get 3 separate notifications. One is going to be snail mail, happens. One's going to be in their portal, and another one's going to be in an email from our risk department. They're going to say you've received a chargeback for X amount of dollars. The end user is saying they did not receive the goods or whatever the issue is. Please provide XYZ documentation. So we have a team in place that helps them navigate that because it is a little tricky. And a lot of our competitors only send one form of communication, and it's snail mail. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my mail is usually a bunch of junk, so I don't pay too much attention to that. So that's why we figured hitting them from 3 different angles, make sure that it gets seen and gets recognized. How does Propelr's solution adapt to emerging payment trends and technologies? Oh, that's a good one. I like that question, Charles. So we are constantly adapting, and Michael can attest to this as well. The payments industry changes every single day. And so there's always something new and cool out, and we try to make sure that we absorb that as soon as possible. Bringing it back to the text to pay, right? We're able to facilitate that. We're able to facilitate during the pandemic. We had a need to have a QR code for those kind of industries where people didn't want to touch someone else's credit card. And you saw the landscape of the payment space even when you went out to dinner. Texas Roadhouse would change to have that QR code right after we had launched it. It was pretty cool. So we're able to adapt to any of those different things. And the more we hear about it, the more we're able to make those changes. Because if we don't know, we can't make those changes. So honestly, a lot of our requests come from merchants, and we're like, oh, you know what? I'm sure we can do that. Let's figure it out, and we'll get there. So that's a really great question. We're always trying to stay ahead of the curve instead of behind it. Are there any upcoming changes or expansions in your business that might affect your payment processing needs? That's a good question. And I think maybe someone can verify, but I think maybe that would be a question that you would ask a merchant, which I think is a fantastic question, because if they're trying to grow, they are selling the business, or if they're trying to have more locations, anything like that, or they're changing to not have a brick and mortar anymore, that's a fantastic question. Everyone take note of that. Good job on that question. How does Propelr's payment solution integrate with ACS's systems, and what are the benefits of using this integration for users? That's a good question too. So it doesn't fully integrate with all of the systems. It's more of a standalone device. The benefit is going to be the referral relationship, that you guys have trust in us to make sure that we're going to take care of your clients. The biggest benefit to your users is going to be that, and the savings that we'll be able to provide. Now, like we talked about earlier, people aren't going to switch unless they're able to see some kind of benefit, and those are the 2 biggest benefits that I would see. Michael, do you have any color there?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, there's not any specific system within ACS that we integrate with. We're just we're rolling out our services to your customers, and if they have systems that need to be integrated with, that's great. If they just need standalone solutions, we're working over, it's working over their networks and whatnot. It's not, so it's just the partnership with ACS.
Yeah, great. This next one's fun. So what tools or technologies does Propelr use to detect and prevent fraudulent transactions? So we've got a few different things. The standards that we have that are just kind of baked in all the time are going to be making sure that we use the chip, which is EMV. That's going to help the majority of the time. If someone tries to swipe and there is a chip on that card, it's not going to let them swipe. It's going to make them use the chip. That's just an added security measure. On top of that, we have on our online portals, it won't let you try to do the same card 3 times. If you try to run more than one card in the same minute, it's going to be a flag, right? For our risk department to say, hey, hang on, something's weird. Because if you have an e-commerce site, let's use that for example, a donate now button with an open field. A lot of people use that for fraudulent transactions to test a book of cards that they might have gotten off the black market, to just test them out, see if anything has happened on those, and if any of those are still active. We see that a lot, unfortunately, and that's one of the things that we'll block. And we'll call the merchant and be like, hey, I think your site's compromised. Here's how you should fix these things. Let's whitelist some IP addresses. Let's figure this out. On top of that, for some of our merchants that have more experience with fraudulent transactions, they know it. They're coming to us and they say, listen, I've got a lot of chargebacks. I use a service like Chargeback 311. Or any of those different things. We have 2 of our preferred providers. One of them is called Count, and the other one is 3D Secure. And those 2 are additional add-on services that we can put onto some of our larger accounts that really want it, and that helps to weed out some fraud. It has extra parameters in place. All right, let's see. Can you provide insights into how Propelr's payment processing capabilities can enhance transaction efficiency and reduce costs compared to transactional methods? Nice. Michael, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. First thing off the top of my head I could think of is interchange optimization is something that's automatically done through most of our virtual terminals that we offer. Um, that's basically the passing of some extra data with business card transactions to take their costs down by qualifying them at a lower cost rate structure through interchange. So basically, what that would mean would if you have take a business card and it costs say 3% through interchange, the automatic passing of extra data with that transaction can get it down to 1.9 to 1.45%. So we're very efficient when it comes to doing interchange optimization. That's one of the biggest ways we can help somebody versus using that can't be done through old terminal that you swipe cards through. That needs to be done on a virtual terminal. So most of the older terminals out there can't do it. Although we do have some new cutting edge terminals that are cloud-based and Android-based that work through the gateway that allow for that now, but those are brand new to market, and they're one of the biggest things that we sell.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'll also just mention that we do also are able to, as we're doing that statement analysis, a lot of our competitors will add junk fees. That's what I mentioned earlier. And it's just extra little fees here and there. It's nickel and diming. And so to talk about reducing the costs in that aspect, we don't do that. And it's mainly because we just want to do right by the customer. So we're not going to charge them an extra risk assessment fee. You're not going to see an annual security bundle fee. All of these little things that do end up adding up, those are where we're able to also save in those instances where the situations that Michael talked about wouldn't exist, right? So we're always trying to be conscious of one, putting more money back in their pocket, but while making sure there's enough to put back in y'all's pocket because you're the ones who gave us a lead, and we want to make sure that you're taken care of as well. Are there any upcoming features or enhancements in Propelr's payment system that ACS clients should be aware of? Awesome question. We are making enhancements all the time. So I would say that it's all going to be very situational. And I know that's a lame answer, but it's going to be situational based on what the customer needs. As we are getting more and more requests, we find a solution for that request, right? 99% of customers we're able to facilitate and insist on. So as you are bringing clients to us and you say, hey, Jennifer, I've got this person who makes windows for buildings and they want to do invoicing, but they also want to invoice an ACH instead of just credit card. Yeah, I can do that, right? Absolutely. Let me customize a solution for you. So the answer to that is just that we are always doing enhancements and making our system better. Okay, I'm scrolling. How do your services integrate with e-commerce sites, and what benefits could that provide a given owner of that online shop? Awesome question. So there's a lot of e-commerce providers. Think of the Shopify, the WooCommerce, those kind of things, GoDaddy even. They all have an open platform, which is nice. So what that means is that we can use one of our gateway providers to plug in and really be that bridge between the Shopify and Propelr and use that gateway to really cross over into their platform. So a lot of those are really great because it gives us just a lot more flexibility to be able to help everybody, excuse me. And that benefit is that they get to have lower rates. A lot of those providers make them go in with a standard cookie cutter rate. It's almost always going to be 2.9% and 30 cents. Almost always. We're able to make it a little bit more cost effective for them by going with us and using a gateway. They'll also get better service because those places are notorious for not having even real humans to talk to.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Propelr and us taking care of your clients directly. They're always going to have someone stateside to reach out to for support. Our support team is second to none. And if and when they need help, they can reach out to any of us, and our support team is here for them.
Exactly. How does Propelr handle increases in transaction volume or business growth? Honestly, we love to see it. So when we're doing that initial application that we talked about earlier, that is going to ask them what their current average volume is. And at that moment, we say, okay, is there anything coming up? Like, do you have a big sale? What's the highest number that you're going to do? And I think probably this question comes from somebody who may have had their funds held because they ran a lot of more transaction. And that happens, unfortunately. Sometimes we see like businesses are growing and it looks a little sketchy, right? But it's not. So we like to ebb and flow with our customers. We also check in with them every 6 months just to make sure that everything's good and happy. We'll do a little rate analysis to make sure that they're paying what they thought they were supposed to do. So we have a high touch and really want to make sure we understand what's going on. Let's use an example of a consignment store. And their normal average ticket is $50. But they had somebody consign a beautiful piece of artwork that's $5,000. And they say, hey, Jennifer, I'm going to run a really large transaction because I finally got this thing sold. It's been sitting here for 6 months and we're going to do it. Because we have those checkpoints, they know they can tell me that. And I will just make sure that nothing gets held or anything like that. So we love to see our businesses grow. That's my favorite thing is like, oh, I'm just starting out. I don't know how much I'm going to do. Okay, cool. Well, let's see where we're at and we're going to grow with you. And I'm super excited to do it. It's one of our favorite things. What are the steps involved from transitioning from ACS's existing payment system to Propelr? So I'm not sure if this is like maybe a partner that y'all have had in the past, but if we're just talking about transitioning a merchant from their existing payments processing, they're going to complete those steps that we talked about before, but also they're going to want to cancel their existing merchant services. And I always tell people not to do it for at least 2 weeks. They've been live with us for 2 weeks. They're happy. They know that everything works like it's supposed to, and then go ahead and cancel your existing service, because we don't want there to be any moment of downtime, right? We know it's going to be fantastic, but we want them to also believe it and see it. So it's a pretty simple process. All they'll have to do is call their existing provider. Can you provide a detailed, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I call that earning their business. I do the same thing, Jennifer. I tell them not to close their account right away. Let's make sure everything's going smoothly and that you're happy with the rate reduction and whatnot. And we show that we're coming through with what we're promising to come through with for savings and whatnot. And then they can go and reach out to their processor and find out their closure process.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're exactly right. Earning their business and making sure that we are filling our promise. And that's another reason why we do the 6-month touch point, just to make sure that they know we're still here and we know we care, and that if there's anything that they need wrong, they can always get a hold of us. Really good point. So the next one says, can you provide a detailed breakdown of your fee structure, including transaction fees, monthly fees, and any additional costs? So we can give some examples, but like I've said, it's not cookie cutter. So I don't have like what you would see from Square, where they say, okay, it's 2.6% here and it's 3.5% here. And the reason why is because we want it to be customized to your customer's needs, rather than having that flat rate all the time, because that's where you get a lot of deterrent. So we can put together kind of like the basics of that, of any monthly fees or any additional costs that might exist. When we get to the rates and different things like that, nothing is set in stone because we want to make sure that we win your customers over. So if we need to lower a monthly fee, or if we need to lower a transaction fee, I want to be able to do that. And I think that kind of leads into this next question, is how does Propelr's pricing model compare to other payment processors in terms of cost effectiveness, right? That's exactly it, right? We make sure that it is in the most competitive space. Most of our competitors are really trying to get down to that bottom dollar or just shave off a few pennies. And so instead of doing that, we really see where there's the most benefit to cut costs for them. Do you offer training or resources to help businesses get the most out of their payment processing solutions? We do. We have webinars that we put online and also on our social medias. I don't know if you guys follow us. If you don't, you should. But on LinkedIn, and we post different kinds of payments 101. We post different things, PCI help, security, any of those things, to try and make sure that they are using it to the fullest of their abilities and they're not missing out on anything. On top of that, they have a full resource section within their backend dashboard that they'll be able to access all sorts of stuff. So if they want to say, hey, you know what, I'm curious on how I can do this, instead of having to call somebody, they can look it up in the resource center. What automation features does Propelr offer for receivables and payables, and how do they enhance efficiencies? Sorry guys, I can't talk anymore. So we do accounts receivable. We do not currently facilitate accounts payable. What that would be in my brain, and if you're meaning something else, please let me know, but that would mean like me as a merchant paying out my employees like a paychecks or something like that, like payroll. And that's not something we do. We do accounts receivable. And so that's them accepting in income from all of their customers. Obviously, being able to do that in an electronic manner, the whole point there is to increase the efficiency and enhance that efficiency, because you would be surprised how many people still do cash only. It's kind of shocking to me that we still have people that say, oh no, I only take cash, or I have an ATM and then people can come pay me. Well, that just creates a longer line. So things that we do for retail and specifically is make sure that everything does have that Apple Pay, Google Pay, tap to pay, those kind of things, because that makes the speed of transactions so much faster. And we're educating our customers about how they can make the most out of their system by maybe not offering PIN debit, but just doing signature debit. And if they did that, then it's going to be faster. Think your Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, right? They don't have you type in a PIN and they get you through there really fast. It's that kind of thing, right? So we're constantly making sure that our merchants have the most up-to-date information on how to be efficient.
Yeah, and let me add something there, Jennifer.
Sure.
You know, online email invoicing, sending invoices with a payment link to a customer's email and cell phone via text, allowing them to pay on their own time instead of having the person taking the credit cards, make the call to them and take the number and whatnot. That's huge when it comes to helping the AR of many different industries.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the invoice feature. Me personally, I would rather pay an invoice online as a consumer.
Yeah,
That's just me. I think
it's more and more
my phone
important.
was listening to me when I talked about Amazon. I got an Amazon notification on my phone. I think it was listening to me. Um, Perfect. I'm just scrolling because some of these are duplicate questions. Do you take companies that offer adult alcohol, firearms, and tobacco? The answer to this is that we have a home for 99% of our of merchants out there, right? So we do offer those, and it's called high risk merchant services. So firearms, tobacco, alcohol, easier to get boarded. The adult is a little trickier, but I do have a home for it if we need to put it there. It just kind of depends. There's a lot of weird parameters. So as you are sending these leads in, and you guys say, hey, Jennifer, can we do this? Just like Timothy did here. It's a really great example of those kind of things that we can ask. Hey, okay, so tell me about your business. What do you do? Give me a little bit more detail, because I need to make sure that I put you in the right space. There are some businesses that we just can't ever do. And it's just like, if it's not legal, we can't do it. Um, just kind of the rules. But most 98, I'm gonna say 98%, we have a home for, and it may just not be on the traditional path that we normally do. It may have to go to a different bank, a different underwriting bank, but we do have homes for most places. And that's not for y'all to have to figure out. You can just send it to us and we'll figure out where it goes, right? So it's still the same process. You have an opportunity to say, hey, Jennifer, can you do this? And even if you want to send it to me before you send the lead in, or you even talk to the merchant, be like, hey, I've got this book and I'm not sure if this particular industry is acceptable for you guys. Can you tell me if it is? I can absolutely go through that with you, and we'll talk about the different things that make it up. Can Propelr's payment solutions integrate with legacy systems that some business might still be using? Yes. And what challenges should be anticipated during such integrations? Awesome question. So if somebody has already invested in a software or a point of sale and they're like, I don't want to pay more money for a brand new point of sale, super valid. We can integrate into about 90% of the existing ones out there on the market. That's software and point of sales. There's usually that gateway that I was talking about earlier that we can use as the bridge. It's just going to take a little bit of research. So as you guys are sending the leads over and in that sales note section, that would be super helpful to say, hey, Jennifer, they are with Aloha point of sale, or they're using Revel point of sale. Cool. That tells me if I can use that, integrate with it, and or if I can't, then it gives me, okay, well, I know what they're using and I know what they're used to, so let me find the most compatible solution that we would be able to offer that would combat that. How does Propelr secure scalability in its payments processing solutions, especially for businesses that are experiencing seasonal spikes? All right, so this kind of goes back to the one that I had a little bit before, but I like the seasonal spin to this, and that's a really good call out. So we just make sure that we follow the trends, right? If it's a slow grow, that's great. If it does seem like a really weird fast spike, we're going to call and ask, say, hey, did you hire a new employee that was butterfingering it and put an extra 0? No? Okay, cool. Super happy. We're going to go ahead and make sure that all of this stuff goes through to make sure it wasn't a fraudulent transaction. For seasonal, though, we have the ability to set accounts up to be seasonal specific. In fact, I'm looking at a snow cone shop out here. Cool, snow cones are really popular in the summer, but as soon as after Labor Day hits, nobody's going to get a snow cone. So those get closed, and that way they're not incurring any additional fees. So we're able to set up a seasonal business for the month that they need to be open, and then they don't have to pay for it whenever they're not open. Think like fireworks too. That's a big one that really they only need it for 2 months out of the year. Perfect. Those are the ones that we're able to help as well. I'm seeing a lot of duplicate questions, so I'm just scrolling, you guys. What are the primary goals for your payment processing solution? Is it reducing costs, improving transaction speed, enhancing security? All of the above. All of the above. A lot of times, though, I'll be honest with you, people that we're talking to are more upset with the cost as number one, and then number two would be the service that they're receiving. They probably have an experience of being on hold for 3 hours trying to figure out what happened with the deposit, right? Those things are never fun. When you call our customer service team, you're going to get someone to answer immediately. They're stateside, and they're going to be either be able to help you within like an 80% chance of helping you in the moment, or they're going to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to keep you on hold. Let me figure this out, and I'm going to call you back, and we'll have actionable results for them. So we do have that customized customer service that's here, and they're fantastic. That's probably, I'll be honest, one of our best value adds, aside from saving money. Could you discuss a real-world case where Propelr significantly improved payment processing efficiency for a client, and what were the quantifiable benefits? For sure. So we actually had the pleasure of processing for almost every single zoo in the United States, which is really cool. So if you guys go to the zoo, props to you. Thanks for visiting my customers. When you go to their little restaurants in there, there's usually a kiosk and a human that's taking your order for a very overpriced quesadilla. When you do that, that kiosk is one of the things that we were able to put in. So it really made it great for the unattended payments. We love that, right? So instead of sitting there waiting in line to ask somebody to order your quesadilla and you gotta wait and all of that stuff, it made it really fast for users to be able to go in and just order on their own, get their receipt, and then wait. That kiosk was probably that was a pretty cool one that I have here as of late. Michael, any ones that you want to talk about, like a really cool one? Putting you on the spot.
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I was just thinking about the zoos earlier today. So that one was probably one of my coolest ones for that efficiency. Just thinking of different ways to make it faster for the customer base, especially in a high traffic situation like a zoo is. You got grumpy kids who are just tired and all they want to do is go see the gorillas, but you're making them have some applesauce and a quesadilla. It really just made for a better experience. And I was able to go and experience that myself as a user. Great questions here. How long has Propelr been in business and how many employees do we have? So we've been around for a little over 2 years, though all of our founders and key members, and honestly all of our reps have been in the industry for 10 plus years. We're all comprised of different spaces that we've all come together to form the best possible version of this payment processing company that we've had from experiences everywhere else. Employee wise, I believe we have like north of 200, and it's mostly going to be our sales reps. And then we have lots of ops and customer service, and of course our marketing and all that. Yay, support questions. We have 24/7 support. You've got it all year long. We're here for you with whatever you need. And again, if you email that ACS at Propelr Pay with any kind of issues, you're going to get an immediate response as well from one of our team members. What are some of the larger name customers? Cool. So the zoos. Think of any zoo, wherever you guys live. The zoo that's there, it's probably my customer. We've got a couple of Starbucks. We do some stuff for, oh, I just had a brain melt here. We got Margaritaville. We got some pretty big names in the space. So we're able to really expand that portfolio and have big names, but as well as take care of our small and medium-sized businesses at the same exact level of support. Doesn't matter if they're doing $2 or $2 million a month. I'm going to treat them exactly the same. Okay, so there's a question about support, but it's a little bit more specific. It's like, can you provide examples of how this has been benefited clients during critical times? Absolutely. So let's talk about Black Friday. Really big time for the retail space, right? We double up on support that day just in case something happens. Nothing happened this past Black Friday with our processing, but we did have a competitor that went down on Black Friday. And it was horrible for a lot of our users, for our new customers. They immediately wanted to get signed up with us, right? And it was just something that we were able to really step in and help with, to just make sure that we were facilitating everything that they needed. What are the most common pain points businesses face when transitioning? Great question. So I think the biggest thing would be that they don't have time, right? So let's say we've done the application and we've got the hardware sent to them, but they're like, oh, it's not a good time to switch. And then they'll have a box of equipment that's just basically a paperweight until they plug it in, right? So it's really getting them to complete that install to switch out the devices. Other than that, I would say that the only other difficult thing, there's not, I don't think. I'm drawing a blank. Michael, unless you have any other ones, that's been my biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I don't have anything right now. I've actually lost where you are in the chat, and I'm trying to catch up, but I don't see a lot of the questions that you're answering for some reason. So
Geez.
I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that.
No, you're totally fine. Don't worry about it.
What time?
Hi,
What time
Jennifer.
stamp?
This is Sergio with ACS. I just wanted to
Sergio.
interject and say, there's still a plethora of questions. What we're going to do is just package them up, put them on a Word doc, and then, we can follow up with all the attendees here.
Great. I was going to suggest the same because I saw my little thing growing and we only have 4 minutes. So that's perfect. You guys keep sending in your questions. These are fantastic. I love them. We will do an FAQ like Sergio said, and make sure that you guys have every piece of information you need. Michael and I are here for you. We want to help you and we want to help grow your portfolio. So whatever it is that you need, please let us know. And we are so excited to work with you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you everyone who attended.
Thanks, you guys. It was so nice to meet you all. Can't wait to talk to you more.